Here we go. Let me share this. Make sure you guys can see this.
Yep, that's it.
Cool. For some reason, it never shows the presenter. Okay, we lost Scott, and then he's coming back in, I think, right?
I think so.
Yeah, video's there. It's not there yet.
It's okay.
But hey, I'm
We
here.
can wait. As long as you're there, that's what matters most.
All right.
All right, let's get this show on the road. I'd like to call the meeting to order at 18:34 local time. Let's see. Help me out here. We've got Mr. Plunk is present. Mr. Reiners is present. Mr. McDonald's present. Scott, I don't know your last name for some reason. It doesn't come to my head. Scott's present.
Adams.
Mr. Adams. Miss Hall's present. And I'm present. Who else am I missing here? Lynn is present.
Mr. Martin's present.
Mr. Martin is present. Okay. Good deal.
Michael's present.
Barry McDonald's present.
Yep. There he is. Hey, Barry. All right.
And Mr. Harrison.
Mr. Harrison, the Mr. Webmaster.
Present. I wouldn't call it that.
I'm just messing around. I got to give you a little bit of fun there. So thanks, guys, for joining us, and thanks for having faith in me to do this thing with you guys. And I really appreciate it, and I'm really looking forward to what we can do. A lot of folks have stepped aside and said some things, mentioned some things. So I think it's a good thing. We're getting a lot of positive feedback, and I want a special thanks to Mr. Plunk for being the VP, stepping up and getting some things actioned early on. I'm going to talk through a couple of things, and what I want to do is introduce a kind of a roundtable style of running the meeting. The idea, when I went back and looked at a lot of the board meetings, I noticed that they were an hour and a half and 2 hours long, and I'm assuming that most of you guys are not wanting to make that longer. So, as such, I'm going to try to make this more efficient with the goal of being, hey, if we need to spend time discussing something, if it's more than just kind of a basic, do we want to do this or not? And then a vote and a motion, kind of a short discussion type of thing. I'd really prefer to get some committees involved, because what happens is you've got a side effect there, which means more members are involved, right? That means that now you've got an understudy, right? Because hey, maybe someday Joe Plunk wants to retire and not be vice president, but if he's got a committee for membership, which is what the bylaw says that the VP is in charge of, then he's maybe got somebody that's already ready to step up and be a VP, right? So we're building for not just today, but also tomorrow. So that's what I want you guys to keep in mind. It's not just about having a fast meeting, but have an effective, fruitful meeting. Okay, so I threw some details. This is the slide that's up. Obviously, it's the board meeting, monthly board meeting. We want to make sure that we communicate effective, efficiently. And obviously, we're here to run the business of the Delta Club Amateur Radio Club, which is a nonprofit corporation in Tennessee. First Tuesday of every month at 18:30. Does that time still work for everybody? I know that we got different folks here on the board now. And is that something that everybody feels real quickly? Do we feel like we want to keep that the same, or do we need to move that a little bit, or what's your guys' quick thoughts here?
It worked for me.
Works for me.
Okay.
Works for me.
Okay.
Well, it's the new people that need to answer the question.
Very true, Mr. Joe.
Works for me.
If we're all good, then I'll keep it that. And if you guys have any comments, just hit me up personally, and we'll talk through it. All right. I'm going to be calling the meeting to session. Obviously, in my absence, or if anything should happen to me, Mr. Joe Plunk, NS4E, your vice president, will take over. We've also got our list of attendees. And then I've got a static link here in this slide deck. So if you forget it or you think, oh, crud, I've forgotten it, it's the same link every time. It's not going to change. So just because you didn't get an invite doesn't mean that, we're not having the meeting. Any questions?
None.
All righty. The format of the meeting, I mean, you guys are used to doing this. You've been doing it on this club for sure longer than me. But what I'd like you to do is kind of think of what the board meeting is kind of our action items. So we're coming here really to vote on things and try to make sure that we push the club's business through and then get all the business done. And then if we need to talk through certain things, i.e., a sidebar meeting about a particular thing, the people that need to stay on can stay on. Everybody else can jump off if, that makes it a more effective use of time. Okay. I want to get you guys in and out as quick as reasonably possible. I put a few bullet points here just to kind of be a reminder to us. It's not a hard set rule. And of course, we can change this if needed. But essentially, we want you to present whatever you've accomplished from the last meeting. You guys know this. I'm not going to try to micromanage you unless something happens and you call out and you need help. And then Joe and I will jump in and see, what needs to happen, who we can get to help. But the idea here is that you know what you need to do in your area of responsibility. So come back to the meeting with that first bullet point explaining that. I put an example there. I think everybody gets that. If there's any obstacles or issues, or you start doing something that the board's approved and you go, oh crap, I don't know how to do this, or I think I'm going to need some help on this, put that down in your list for the next time. That way, if somebody else has some experience with that, we can help you out. Maybe we can give you some ideas to take back to your committee. Okay. The third point here, personnel update. If you're adding people to a committee or creating a committee, we can call them teams. It sounds a little bit better, I think, just to call them teams. But if you're going to add a team or somebody's joining, if somebody left, update us on that so that we understand what's going on. Your area specific tasks, again, only you're going to know that. I'm not going to try to micromanage everything. It's impossible. We're trying to scale the club up because we want to grow the membership, and all the things are going to be, aimed towards running this more efficiently, doing more things. That means, I would rather have, Joe have time to go concentrate on something else. I'd rather have John have time to go, concentrate on, what the next program is going to be and talking to people rather than, just being on a meeting. Try to focus on actionable data. That's what we're all about. That's going to help us make really good decisions and be effective. Joe's got some things Mr. Plunk's got some stuff on that later. Okay, so how we start this off, I'll start the meeting, and then I think unless, this is how we'll run it, and if we need to, we'll modify it. But I always like to start off with knowing where we're at with money issues, and then kind of going through and talking about, any of the events, meetings, training, repeater stuff, any of the publication things last, so that if we do come up with new items, that the publication guys are going to have those on their list. So you may be writing it down off to the side while we're going to the meeting, or, just updating your slide. I have asked Mary Jean, and thank you for accepting to come in here. If needed, you're more than welcome. We do appreciate your input. We appreciate your service to the club. Think that you have a very deep insight into what has happened and what's going on. So I've left a spot there for you, and then send it back to the vice president, and then I'll close up. I'll do mine last. Okay. Just guidelines. I won't go over this one next time. I'll hide the slide, but basically we already talked about it. Come prepared. We'll try to figure this out, but try to keep it to a few minutes, and then leave time for the others and just yield back. If somebody comes with a problem, please be thinking about how you can help them. If it's going to be too far in the weeds, we'll try to, sidebar that, make it a meeting, make it a committee. we need these items to be, of value to everybody. So, probably not minutia type of things. Um, we trust you, your board members. Yeah, I put some obvious things here. You're representing more yourself. You got your team and your committee. So if there's anything that's a non-confidential thing, it's up to you to communicate back to your committee, right? So that would be one of the things if you guys get into committees where you have your own committee, you want to go back and communicate the vision and kind of the overall goals of what we're trying to do. If there's nothing to report back, it's okay. There's nothing to get wrong. We're gonna figure this all out together, and we'll adjust as we go. Okay, if we can, Mr. Jim Martin, KD4FUU, are you ready?
I have nothing to report, sir. Not to.
Oh,
No,
wait a second.
I may need more than 5 minutes.
Okay,
Go
for it.
May I share my screen?
You may. Let me pause this share. Then you can go. Will it let you do it?
It says host disabled participant screen sharing.
Yeah, I don't know why that is doing that. Hang on just a second. Okay, there we go. Got it. You should be able to do it.
All right, there we go. Yep. All right. Can you all see my screen now?
Yes, sir.
All right. So this is the report that I sent out earlier. It's the usual format. So we started December with $21,696.94 in our account. We had $90 in deposits and a number of checks totaling $722.76, which brought us to a ending balance of $21,064.18. So let me go through where all these numbers lie. So we had two membership renewals. One was taken in at the club meeting, and then I received one in the mail, as well as a $20 donation for a total deposit of $60 there. Thank you to Joe for making these deposits. We also had a $5 club commission from the ARRL. That was received and deposited by Joe. Thank you. And then we had a $25 deposit for Will. I can't remember Will's last name, but he had a student membership for ARRL, which was submitted by Joe as well. So we had a total of $90 in deposits. That matches up with what we had above. And then we had a number of checks written. So I wrote a check to Steve Frazier for reimbursement of flea market travel expenses. That was gas for him to get to, or for he and Joe to attend a flea market. I can't remember which one it was, but I do have a receipt for that. I reimbursed Joe.
Tupelo,
sorry.
I believe.
I'm sorry, Tupelo?
Tupelo.
Okay, very good. I did reimburse Bob Votter for website renewal fees. I think we're going to need to figure out how we can have some of these fees come to the treasurer so that we're not having to rely on certain individuals to pay things and then get reimbursed. I think we're going to eventually run into an issue with that.
It's kind of hard to do on your website unless you start the website as a club from the very beginning. It's hard. You can't transfer it.
Okay.
We can work on that. I would like to suggest that we put that into a committee for that area so they can figure that out. Either transferring the files over to a new account, in the club name or something to that effect.
Okay.
Does that sound reasonable?
That sounds reasonable, or at least, reasonable to investigate that. Yeah. Hopefully with something that can be done easily. I also wrote a check to Postmaster for the renewal of our PO box for $332. I sent in dues for what was it? N4 VOK, I think it was, for his membership, and we did receive that $5 commission. That's the $5 commission that's up here. And then finally, Barry McDonald received, by way of Rick Tillman, I think, the renewal for Sarah. I'm not sure how that took place because last year I'd sent $35 to Sarah for a 1-year renewal. But somehow that came through. So Barry paid for 2 years, so I reimbursed him $70. So that's a total of $722.76. So those numbers match up with what we have here on the checking statement. And then we also have our 2 CDs. So you can see the one is got a nice interest rate there. But we've got another year on that one, and a little less than a year left on the larger CD here. So, have any questions about the treasurer's report? Or any suggestions on, I mean, is it legible to everybody? Does it make sense? Does it need any revamping?
The debits and the credits work with each other, so it looks good to me.
Okay. All right. Okay. Anything else about that? Going once? Going twice? Okay. Very good.
Old American.
Yeah, only thing I would add is let's make sure that we're putting for that the Southeast Repeater Association thing is nothing more than putting an email address in and signing up and putting a credit card in. And that's an ongoing problem I see here is that the club doesn't have some kind of a debit card. That may be something that you need to look into just because of the fact that all these website things do not accept ACH. You're going to have a credit card to get this thing squared away. I'm willing to work with you on that. I think Joe and I can help with that if need be.
I don't think we need a credit card
or a debit card, some kind of a P card so that you can pay for things online, because it's sort of in this day and age, it's sort of ridiculous not having that.
Gotcha.
Just leads to a bunch of confusion.
All right.
We'll talk about that one offline, Jim.
Okay. All right. And then the other item I have for this evening is our 2024 proposed budget. Sorry, it was a little late in coming out today. Did not have a good weekend health-wise. So
how does it match up with last year's?
I'm sorry?
How does it match up to last year's? Cutting to the chase kind of here. Is it pretty much the same amount as last year?
We're fairly close in what we had in the budget, but okay, as you'll see here, we have okay, in this column we have what we proposed in 2023, and then I went through and figured out what we actually took in and what we paid. So our income and expenses were definitely higher. As you can see, items like estate sales, we had proposed that we would, or we estimated that we would be taking in $1,500, but we actually took in nearly $6,000.
Right. Well, a budget is just like they say, it's a guesstimate of what you're going to do. You can't ever guess on estate sales who's going to die and leave you the stuff.
Right. And then there's some other items like our refreshments. We typically budget $500, but we actually spent over $750. but that can be attributed to inflation and, the cost of soda and
Field day.
everything have all gone up.
Field day was higher this year.
Well, let's see.
Imagine the ham for
I have field day
placement.
broken out down here, so we actually spent less on field day than we have in previous years.
Okay.
I also well, okay, let me back up here. So I'm not sure what we want, or if we need to massage any of these numbers for what we're going to propose for 2024. So I was hoping to get some insight from folks on the board that have have been around longer than I have. But I think that I think for the most part we're pretty in line. I did have to add a couple of items that we didn't have in past years, like club commissions. So I tallied up. We took in $155 last year when we hadn't budgeted for anything. I'm not sure what to put in for this year. I don't know what we're likely to collect. What else do I have here?
One thing that I might add that would be helpful would be a column showing the delta between the years, right? Make it a little easier to, at least for the subtotals, right? So you can see that, hey, it's up. We're spending an extra $200, or we're making an extra $200 expected in this sort of thing. Because I think that we have to have time to digest this offline before we come and vote it in. Obviously, I mean that's how you guys have typically
the $200
done this, right?
is the scholarship,
right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
but typically, haven't you guys typically read this, or just like or talked about it, but then read over it before the meeting?
Well, basically, we look at what we have been budgeting, and if it falls within what we have been budgeting, we know that the monies might have to be shifted around. Sometimes they do. And so if your budget's really not that much more than it was the last year or the same, and basically it's like Joe said, the $200 difference in this budget is the scholarship. The dollars are the same. Now, where they're coming from and where they're going to might be a little bit different, but they're the same dollars. Now, if we saw a budget that went from $6,000 to $12,000, you better believe we'd be looking at that and asking some pretty hard questions. But if you go back over the history of the budgets, they seem to run about the same every year unless we add something to it.
Right.
Not to mention also the repeater budget. It is anybody's guess as to what we're going to have to spend. Okay. That's an act of God as far as
what about repeater maintenance?
Well,
that is
it.
No, it says upgrades. No, sir. I disagree. It says upgrades. It does not say maintenance.
Well, it's maintenance.
No,
it's maintenance.
So
it all falls under there.
Let me make sure I understand it.
Upgrades to maintenance.
You have to remember, especially at the 8.2 repeater, to have anything done on the antenna is going to cost us a minimum of $2,000 just to get somebody out there to climb it.
Right. And, that's why I'm wondering why is it $1,000 then?
Because we don't know what it's going to be.
I don't know.
It can go for years and not cost us anything.
Yeah, it's a hit miss thing.
Okay. I think the point might be if we know that a minimum touch is $2,000, let's budget a minimum touch for just that. If we don't spend a minimum touch, then we don't spend it. But if we know that a minimum touch is $2,000, instead of budgeting $1,000, let's budget $2,000 because we know that's going to be a minimum touch.
Yes.
I did have one other question.
It's still not gonna, what you say is not going to be what happens. It's just not gonna happen that way. I mean, it's, you know.
Where are you gonna take the $2,000 from, the other $1,000 from to put in there? And then you can ask the same question. Well, if you know you got $100 budgeted here and you're not going to spend but 64, you know, are you going to take $36 from there and $10 from here?
Well, by definition,
there's been years I hadn't spent squat.
Yeah, but by definition, that's the way a budget works.
Understand?
Budget is a guide.
Right. But if you get
we might not spend anything this year.
I'm just trying to say that this is a big budget item that's going to pop up every now and then. And, you know, it is what it is. And you either spend it or you don't.
Okay.
And you can change
the
other
thing
thing
you
we
could
potentially
just want to make sure I understand something here. So you're just, what you're saying, Barry, just make sure I understand is, you guys basically have not ever really budgeted that because most years you don't really need that, haven't had that kind of a big emergency.
That is
so
correct.
you just leave the money in the bank and don't tie up the budget that way.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
We did climbing in 2020 and then in 2023.
That's 2 years back to back. You didn't meet your budget because of that, I guess, right?
Yeah, well, we've had
but the television station is the one that was having the problems, not us.
Exactly.
But us to have the problems, and they had to spend the money to repair their problems.
Yeah, but
they spent millions.
We had to climb, so it cost us money, right?
Huh?
But I don't care what they have to do. That doesn't bother. That does not concern me.
Oh, it concerns us.
I'm concerned about what the club has to pay, right?
Yes.
And that concerns us.
Big time.
Well, I mean, we can look at this a little bit different way. Instead of having, I mean, there's an alternate way that we could look at this potentially. Instead of having a budget line item that says, okay, here's our minimum repeater maintenance that we're going to have to do. Instead of that, we put it in as a repeater reserve. And it gets its own line item that's a reserve amount that we say, hey, it's a reserve. It's not technical in the budget. We're going to call it out outside of the budget so we can keep a balanced budget, but we keep a repeater reserve. So so as we roll through these years, we have a repeater reserve that we know, hey, we may have to dip into that $5,000 that's for the repeater reserve. And when we dip into it, we use it, but we know that we have to replenish it. And we may have to replenish it over 2 years or over 3 years or whatever, however we determine as an organization to do it. It's just, it's a different way of looking at it.
We can do it whatever way you want to. It's just that, you know, when we need it, we need it. That's it.
And the other side of this is we also put money in the CDs, and that's really, we really thought we were going to really dip deep into those CDs, which would have been the reserve you're talking about for the repeater.
Sure. Now, let me tell you, we have done pretty good with the problems we've had with our major repeater. We've done pretty good with what we have. I mean, and it's been a big time problem, you know, for the last 2 years. And it wasn't necessarily our fault, but we don't want to give up that spot because, I mean, that's just a very, very prime spot, you know, to have our golden repeater.
Yeah. We're on the same page with you, Barry. We just want to make sure that we're putting the money. We're not criticizing. We're just making sure we're putting the money in. Yeah, go ahead, Joe.
I've been trying to ask a question about the ARRL for like 10 minutes, so I'm going to throw it out there now. About how much ARRL income have we been getting each month? Is it $5 a month or $10 a month, or is it random?
They just started the program.
Are you talking about the commissions that we get?
The $5.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you see some. Here's the commission
times 5.
So I mean, it's total $159, but it's random. I mean, it depends on how many people are renewing each month.
lot depends on how many new memberships we put in, more so than the renewals.
So
it's a new line item. We just started it this year and said it's a way that we can make more money.
Oh, sure. I understand. I just was trying to see that breakdown that Jim just showed us. How much on a month were we getting? So really we could look at it from a cash flow perspective. You know, are we expecting $20 a month, or is it ebb and flow, or does it all come in random cycles? That was random. The question that I wanted to ask.
Yeah.
Is it random or is it predictable? So I appreciate that.
Random.
Yeah, the copy of this budget that I had sent out today, it has all these tabs, so you can look at each of the tabs to see where the numbers came from. All right. So let me go back here. So before we move on to our expenses, any question about or any discussion about our proposed numbers here for what we think we're going to bring in?
So I would like to say something.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right. So I just thinking back over the past several years, and I guess this is more directed towards Ty and Joe Plunk, but like I know that we've had the repeater budget at 1,000 for the past, at least since I've been on the board. And like they said, like it seems like it's like we don't ever really use it until we have to use it, and then it's a lot more. So like when that normally happens, I know that's when we've typically gone to, like, so Barry has brought it up to the board, and then we've discussed it as a board, and then just like when anything goes over 1,000 anyways, we brought it to the club and voted on it at the club. So like even though it's been out of budget, it's still been voted on at the time of the issue. So on, if that's how we've been handling it, I guess, I mean, I think y'all make a good point. Would it be better just to go on a budget like $3,000?
Right.
If we know it's going to cost at least $2,000 for a climb, and that way, like y'all said, the money's there. Or would it be better to have that kind of as a reserve somehow, and then like Joe said, like maybe put in like 5,000 in a reserve, just so on paper, because I know we're going to do what we got to do, but on paper, so it looks more consistent, for when we actually spend stuff.
Yeah, you want your budget to be balanced as much as
I like
possible.
the reserve idea. I think that's
I like it. Idea. Yeah, I like that. That's a good idea.
Rollover minutes, same thing.
Well, I mean, I think that my perspective on that is that anytime the club has a large expense, I think that it's, I don't want to lose sight that whenever, we put this $5,000 in reserve and the board can just use it. I don't think that that's really a good idea, but I think it is a good idea that, we continue whenever we have the non-reoccurring expenses for the maintenance or whatever, that we do make sure we include the membership in that voting, and that they have a say, because it's really their club too. And so I don't really know that putting $5,000 in reserve and then not talking to the club about it, I just want to make sure that we always do bring it to the club and let them have a say in whatever happens like that in a big expense environment like that.
Oh, I would absolutely think that if we do establish a repeater reserve, it's still, use of that reserve still has to be brought before and talked about and discussed. All we would be doing by establishing that repeater reserve is basically effectively establishing a different account, so that account can be budgeted and not have to have the really wacky impact that it would have on the overall cash flow budget for the club. By calling out the repeater as a reserve fund, okay, here's the reserve fund, this is how much is in it. It's not going to have this wacky upsetting apple cart effect to the club budget. if we have an act of God or some wacky repeater event that has to get dug into, it's over here on the side, and it doesn't just skew the year over year budgets. That was my thought.
Well, I know that, just from being on the board for, for my short tenure, that's why we do try to keep, some cash in the bank, because we know that anything can happen to the repeater. So, we don't try to lock up all of our money into CDs. We do try to keep some, fluid cash just for that, and then, budget the bare minimum, and then whenever you have your non-reoccurring expenses, then you bring it to the membership and vote on it there. So I guess the only thing I'm saying is that just be careful when we put a reserve in there, that we may take that out of the membership's hands, and I don't want to do that. So that's my only caution, I guess.
It's the board's decision to do the business of the club. So I don't see how you would be taking that out of the club's hands. The club has voted us in this position to do the business and spend the money. So I'm not sure I understand that, but I will
only
say
according
this.
to the budget.
But we've spent 18 minutes talking about this. We need to move on, guys.
Well, let me
Let's
say
get
this
to
one other
let's get to the
thing.
main points here.
We're here for the members, and this is the way that, and I know I always hate to hear this said, but the members expect us to come to them with this type of information. And when you go to off books budgeting, sometimes you can get yourselves in trouble.
What you have just said, I'm not understanding that at all. That there's nothing off the books that's been suggested. That is an extremely offensive thing to say to me, and I do not appreciate that. I'm not suggesting in any way, shape, or form that we would do anything not above board. So I just want to make that clear, because that's what you just said.
Off the books is not anything offensive to anyone. It is an accounting practice that is done by corporations all the time to do exactly what you're talking about.
The reserve is basically off books.
Yes. And the reserve is basically, like Joe says, is off books. So,
yeah.
I'm sorry,
let's put it on the book.
I did not mean to offend you. I was just using basic.
I understand.
Things.
I'm not offended. I thought you meant
something
different.
Another thing that we need to say is on the spending of the funds for the tower and the repeater. This has taken up much time of this club over the year, as it has here tonight, because it's something that we know we have to spend, but it's something that we know that we have to go to the club to, because it's something that touches every member of the club.
Okay. All right. All right. We've got this. Jim, we kind of sidetracked you there on your, is there any other points you need to review before we move to the next item?
Well, one thing I did want to kind of point out is that we thought we would take in $2,000 in membership fees or dues, and we only took in $1,640. So do we see any
basically 82 members?
Yeah. So do we need to make any change to this, or do we just work harder to try to get more people to pay their dues?
Well, I'll just throw this out there. It is my intent to grow the membership. So I'm fine with leaving the membership at 2,000. It is the full intent that I have to grow our membership, because we need growth. The club needs growth. We've got to grow. So I'm fine leaving the membership at 2,000. I do want to understand why that shortfall happened. Was that shortfall due to life memberships, or was that membership due to members committing and not paying, or did we just not get everybody to renew? Can you elaborate a little bit on the shortfall, please?
I really have no insight into why we had fewer people renew.
Paul Broom would have more insight.
Yeah.
And when do we have to publish the proposed budget? Is it February?
Yeah, we don't have
Yeah.
to do that until February. So
Okay.
you got a month to
So
think
we can
about
still,
it.
Right.
yeah,
That's why I'm saying we're not going to solve anything there, but it is good. It is very good and healthy for us to have a discussion about that, and I encourage that.
So then for items like our affiliated club commissions, do we go ahead and put in the budget figure that we hope to receive from the ARRL, assuming that they continue to do that?
We've had real spotty results on renewals.
How does a church handle that? Because basically you're asking a question like, how much are we going to get in tithing, that week, right? So how does a church handle that?
Churches handle that by looking back over what has happened in the past.
Historically, right? We don't have historical data yet, so you really can't. It's a guesstimate on that one.
And with the dues increase, we'll probably, ARRL might even reduce. It might reduce the number of people renewing.
I think $155 line item is kind of make you scratch your head to say, do you really need to, unless you're going to try to see what you're doing with this program, which I think we would all like to know what's happening in this program. Is it worth the time and effort? And is it worth $5 or is it worth $10 to us? Because I know Joe's put a lot of work into getting this money in. So, it's nice to see we're getting $115 or $155 from ARRL.
Agree.
But historical data, it's kind of hard to do. We don't know what the offering plate's going to bring in every Sunday.
I'd say leave it 0 and see what happens this year.
Okay. Then we have a trend that we can go with moving forward.
Well, we've got 1 year's worth of trend, which is better than what we got right now.
Okay. All right.
I suspect it'll be less. I don't know.
I also kind of suspect that we will not have a $6,000.
Matter of fact, it might need to go down to 1,000 because we really don't have that much. We have a lot of junk.
Okay. A lot of prime equipment to sell. So.
And we don't know who's going to die.
I wasn't going to go there. Thanks, Len.
Well,
that's basically.
So, Joe, to a point that I would ask, is it time for us to write down and donate what's left and just clean it out instead of carrying it?
No, I've got a. What do you mean? I'm going to see what happens at Jackson, and there's a guy at Jackson that might be willing to buy it, for pennies on the dollar, and move it out.
Okay, that's what I was just really getting at. Is it time to stop carrying it and just liquidate it or dispose of it?
Well, I'm thinking that we'll probably try to dispose of it or liquidate it and get it out of Steve Frazier's father's garage.
Hell, I even still have some here, but it's junk.
What do you have?
Hey guys, we need to stay on topic here, please. We're already 25 minutes on this. Okay. Just trying to be respectful of everybody's time, not trying to be rude. Any other points takeaway for the budget?
I'm sorry?
I did have one. Go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead.
Do we carry, I know we carry, this is a line item for the budget. Do we carry maintenance, like replacement maintenance, equipment maintenance on any of the gear, or we just insure the gear? Are there any service contracts to support it? Or
insurance only.
Insured, yeah. Yeah, and I don't think we don't have like spare repeaters sitting around that we can drop in place. Correct.
I've used it once.
I'm sorry, you used it once?
I have used it once.
You're talking about the insurance?
Yes.
Oh yeah.
When lightning
controller.
Yeah, lightning strike.
Yeah, I had to this year I had to explain that to the insurance company, that when I tried to renew and they put a hold on our renewal until I explained why or I had to explain that we've taken every measure possible to avoid a future lightning strike.
In other words,
I can't believe
praise to God, right?
You are good. That's great.
Yeah. So, proper grounding and, a few prayers. So
holy water.
Yeah. It's hard to stop that lightning, man.
Yeah. All right. So, the rest of this is pretty much self-explanatory, I guess. Do you guys see anything that looks like I should make a change? Do we want to bump this up to $2,000 or $3,000 for our repeater system?
I would suggest this. Give us a chance to read this and digest, and then let's come back and give you input on that on the next meeting. Can we do that?
I'm fine with that. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
I do have a question. Where does the Zoom expenses fall? Does that fall under DARC board?
Yeah, I lumped it into this discretionary fund.
Good question.
So here are all the expenses here. So we had prize tickets, storage bins. I didn't break out some miscellaneous expenses that I received from Joe that I reimbursed for, that included some things, like being able to make copies for testing purposes, shipping out, equipment. I can't remember what all was in there. There was some miscellaneous parts to like repair antennas or something for sales. So some of those items are in there. I did break out the usual $50 training expenses that shows up over here. It's always been 50. I just let that ride. But then also we had tech expenses. So the annual Zoom subscription, the renewal
what's the register.com?
I'm sorry? That's the renewal on our domain name.
Okay, that is excessive. I can tell you right now, that's about 7x what it should actually be if it's just the domain.
Is that just the domain name, or is that the domain name and website hosting?
No,
I think the website is the GoDaddy.
Website renewal here. That's 1 year.
Yeah, we need to take a look at that.
The renewal, that was a multi-year renewal. Is that correct, Mary Jean?
I think it was 3 or 5 years.
Right.
How can you make an annual budget for 5-year items?
So exactly, that's not that
how you
money
do that.
does it shouldn't. You have to spread that out. Okay. I just wanted to understand if the register.com renewal was for the domain name hosting for the domain name renewal, or is that for the website hosting, or both? And that would be good to understand if they were the same or different. And it looks like they're different.
Okay, so yeah, they are different.
Do you have the invoices for that?
Yes, I'll go back and grab those out of my email. So, yeah, depending on how many years that was, I can divide by
I've got it right here.
Email. Okay.
It's on 5/9/2023. It was for $48, which I don't know. There may be something else that threw in on top of that. But I'll forward that. I'll forward that real quick, because this is the one that, for whatever reason, it was still going to Tommy Thompson. So like since then, like we've gone through Bob Valder, we've gone through Mike Harrison. I think at one point Steve tried to get a login, but then I don't know that he ever got the ability to change other stuff. So like, I'll forward that now.
Okay, are we talking about
You
the
send that to Joe
Tom
and myself.
renewal? I'm sorry, what time?
I was asking if Mary Jean, if you could forward that to Mr. Plunk and myself. We can dive into that offline. Website and the domain, please, if you've got it.
And that just a little background. That's what I do with and deal with every day. So I mean, that's not. There's some expertise that I have there. That to me, at first blush, does seem to be a little high, but there may be some details that make that seem appropriate. So that's all. Just wanted to take a peek at it real quick.
Right.
All right, so we'll take that offline and I'll make whatever necessary changes there. So all of that was lumped into the discretionary fund, and obviously that this will come down to be more in line with what we had budgeted as we divide that among the coming years. Just as a reminder, this past year for our Free Fest donation, there was no actual donation made or there was a donation made, but it was donated by the vendor. So they comped us the LiPo battery that we donated. So you can see our total expenses were a little higher than usual, but that also includes the fact that we spent $3,000 more in repeater maintenance, and then a couple other items are a little bit more. We had $500 in donations for our meeting spaces because we donated $300 to Ellendale Church of Christ, and then we couldn't meet there, and so we've taken on some donations to our current location. All right, so that's pretty much all I have. Please go through this with a fine-tooth comb. Let me know if there's anything you have any questions about, and we'll dig in deeper. And then I guess next month we'll have a more concise budget available, and we'll vote on it and bring it to the club membership.
Do a wonderful job for us.
Thank you, Jim. I know it takes a lot of concentration and work to get all those numbers in there. So thank you very much.
No worries. All right. Thank you.
Appreciate it. All righty. No, that's not easy, but thank you very much for all that. Thank you for the comments. All right, let's is there a question? I thought I heard something there. I think it's time to go over to Mr. Perry Hayes.
All right. Well, I don't have a lot to go into tonight. Paul was the secretary last year. I've not seen his minutes from the meeting last month, but I assume he'll be turning those into Mike, and those will be part of the next Sparks. As far as new matters for 2024, we did have one new person apply for membership. That's Will Martirana. His call is KQ4FUM. He's a young ham. He passed the general recently, and we were talking to him at the club meeting last month, and we let him know that if he joined ARRL, he would get a free year's membership in Delta Club. So he's applied for that. We also had 2 members apply to renew. The first one is William Hawkins. His call is Alpha Kilo 4 Sierra Zulu. He's been a member since 2010, and he's made a request to renew. And our other renewal request was yours truly, November 4, Golf Juliet. So I would recommend that we accept this new membership application and the 2 renewals.
What was the second person's name?
There was me, there was William Martirana, and there was a William Hawkins.
And it's called
Alpha Kilo 4 Sierra Zulu.
Okay.
He's in Texas.
Savannah, Texas.
How did he get a hold of us?
He's been a member since 2010. I don't know if he used to live here and moved out of town to Texas or.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he moved back to Texas. I think he was in the Tennessee State Guard and the Mississippi State Guard, and I think he has attended some.
So I would recommend that the board approve those membership applications.
I second.
I would so move that we approve.
You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Thank you very much. Everybody that wants to vote for these to be accepted, please say aye.
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 Okay. Anyone opposed? There are none, I have heard, so that does unanimously pass. Thank you for that, Mr. Hayes.
Thank you, Todd. That's all I have for the board tonight.
Okay. Thank you very much. All right. Next up is Mr. Scott Adams, KM4 PMU.
All right. The only thing I really don't have is just looking at the budget for my line item. What I did see that the extra $254 and some change was due to the fact that we did buy, when we were at the Ellendale, we bought the new wireless microphone as a replacement.
Gotcha.
And we also bought a cable and some things to go on the microphones. So if we want to scale that budget number down by $100, that would probably be good. Or we could just cut back on some of the snacks. Does anyone have any comments, suggestions, or any other items on the snack thing?
I only come for the snacks.
Well, I love the snacks.
That's why the budget went up so high, because I had buy special
Diet Dr. Pepper for me.
Dadgummit, Jim.
So anyway, that's what I see for the budget for my part. And that's the only thing I have.
If we could get these, that would be even better.
Monster.
Now you're talking some real budget.
Think our kidneys would kill us.
Yeah.
Is there I don't know that that looks like it's out of line or anything, but if everything looks okay, then just maybe reduce it by what he mentioned there.
Yeah. Scott, thank you for reminding me that there was a purchase of a microphone and cable and
not a problem.
Some actual equipment.
You pulled your budget up, and I took a picture of it, and then I got to thinking, what did I spend so much money on? I had to go back and look at my receipts, but that's what it was. So
yeah, it wasn't crazy out of line. I mean, and the price of everything has gone up. So
I guess the only thing that would have helped me, I guess, better going forward, if we would do a semi-annual review of the budget to see how we are. For me, because I don't really keep tabs on what I spend. But it'd be helpful for me to see like every 6 months, just give me an idea if I'm going over budget, and I'll be able to cut back on some stuff. But
I can do that for you, sir.
Okay, if that would be helpful.
Yeah, happy to.
That's all I have.
Very much, sir. All right. Next up is Mr. John. Am I saying that right? Is it Reiners? Rainers?
That's Reiners. Reiners. Yep.
Okay, good. Thank you. KN4BVH. Go ahead, sir.
All right. Well, I thought I had everything planned out, but we've had some deviations in recent days, but nothing that we can't adapt and overcome. So this month's program, we're doing the 2 topics, intro, basic tools, crimping, power pole connectors, soldering, multimeter use by none other than Ty, KX4MQ. The second presentation was going to be about power sources and distribution in the shack, batteries, solar, etc. I'll reach out to David Wilkie if you want him to do that. In all honesty, we've covered this topic pretty well in recent years, I thought, but because I know I did a presentation about solar, and then last July I did one about backup power, which kind of ties into this. We kind of, after the storms that we had in June, decided to look at stuff for emergency power, and went into like some automated switching that you can do, where you can have a power supply and then a what they call power gate to swap over to battery, that sort of thing. But I'm sure we could expand on that if I can't get David to do something.
So I love that. And my intention here is not to hijack that. I want you and your committee, I would suggest, this is one of these areas where I would suggest that you get some members engaged.
Okay.
Because someday, in 10 years or 20 years, you might get tired of being the program director and want to have somebody fill in for you. Right. So, and that's the thing, like, just having somebody helping you and having a committee gives you people to automatically draw from. It gives the club somebody to draw from as well.
Yeah.
So I don't want to hijack that, but this list here that we shared was really intended to give you kind of an idea about having a couple of tracks. So I'll do a real quick presentation of this just really quickly, because I'm not going to spend a bunch of time here. But the idea was that we have some pretty clear data. Joe's going to talk about that. Mr. Plunk's going to talk about that during his time at the end. So I'm not going to steal his thunder there, but there's pretty clear data that says our members want to have how-tos.
Yeah, have a good one.
All right. So that's very, very clear, and he'll back me up on that, and he'll show the numbers and all that. So the point there is just to say, like, here's a little skeleton. John, there is no reason that you can't change this. I just wanted to, I don't like it when you criticize something, but you don't give an alternate plan. Right. So if I'm going to criticize something, I'm like, hey, I really don't want to watch YouTube videos at the club. They used to do that at the digital club, and everybody'd fall asleep. And if we're trying to increase our membership, that's not going to work.
Right.
So that's just my opinion. But I hear people talk about that kind of stuff. So if we give them something, that's at least going to give them a track. So if you're a tech or tech plus, and you come to the meeting, you might not have anything other than a Baofeng. So we want to give you some classes here on how to prepare for field day, how to build your shack. And so that's what that first track is there in the left column. The idea with the meeting format too is just to take your halftime, your snack break in between those 2 topics, and then do the other presentation. You want to limit that to about a 15-minute. That's going to take up about half of the meeting time. Right, because you got a couple of 15-minute presentations with maybe a couple minutes of Q&A. The other idea behind that was to do those 2 things at the same time potentially, and just run 2 tracks at the same time. So okay, guys, we put up a partition. We'll have to talk through that part of it. But the other track is intended to engage the advanced guys, the guys that are the generals and the extra classes that are probably going to be more into building HF antennas and things like that. Again, with the intent of preparing them all year long for field day. with the idea of adding some things. Potentially we can talk about, adding winter field day down the road, but that's the intent of the 2 tracks. The third track was something that, John, that you suggested when we were talking through this at the dinner, was kind of a track 3, which is a kind of a quick, show me something cool, new products. And I would call that the lightning round, where you get somebody to come in for, 5 minutes max and just say, hey, here's this new cool thing. Baofeng just came out with a 99/R model, and here it does everything, and you can talk to the expert,
Do we know if Jeff Krause has an FTM 400?
He does, and
okay.
He loves it. Yeah.
Okay.
He was banging on the door for that one. So I just threw that out there. You want to change that, by all means do it. It's not meant to hijack that from you. It's meant to empower you and give you a path forward, so that you can build something for field day instead of waiting to June and going, oh crap, we should do something for field day. Here, let's show the software, which was a great program. It was a great program, but it was one thing when I could have been maybe preparing all year long. So that was the only reason that became topical.
Gotcha.
Anybody wants to see this, John, you can share it. It's just, I put it out there for you to have some kind of something to go off of.
Right.
Right. Anything else that you need to talk about on your?
No, I've got this month covered. Either I'll do track 2 or David Wilkie. I'll reach out to him because he's actually expressed interest in possibly being director of programs down the road.
Perfect.
He kind of wants to be I'll kind of mentor him this year, and then we'll go from there and see if he's still interested in doing that.
My suggestion would be to grab him and one other person and put them into a committee, and then let them do some of this work for you. Let them go and do some of the legwork behind, what would you have to do a coax program? Like, could we call one of the manufacturers? Joe's got a contact for that. But just an idea, right? And then they can let them run with this, help you out.
But yeah, we should be good. We'll be covered.
Awesome. Okay. If you're good, we'll move on.
Which one do I need to put into Sparks?
Both.
Which one of those do I need to put in Sparks?
It's a 2-track thing. John will tell you.
Both of them. It's going to be 2 separate programs.
Does somebody have their?
All right. So can you send those to me when you?
Sure. Yeah, I can email them to you.
All right. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. You got a radio on in the background.
Do I need to, change up the format so that I can do like track 1, track 2 on the program, or?
I guess
we're going to be
something program 1, program 2, track 1, track 2. Whatever you want to name it. Ty, what do you think?
I think it might be good to write an intro explaining the program to people. Explain to them the idea that, hey, this month we kick off a new 2-track system to engage members. And in track 1, it'll be geared towards, those with a technician class license or people that need basic ham skills. And we'll be talking about that with the idea of helping you prepare your shack at home, as well as preparing yourself for field day.
I believe that sounds like a Presence Corner message.
Nope, mine's going to be a little bit more over general. But yeah, good idea.
So,
with a drastic change like that, I think it would be Presence message.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, I'd encourage you guys to just put something in there about that and explain it. It needs to be in the newsletter. I've got something different I'm going to put for for the President's Corner. Well, I'll mention something, but I don't want to go into detail in that. It's a general column, not anything too specific.
And I'll just echo this real quick for something, and I'll get to this when we talk about the membership survey. The membership, per the survey, is really asking for and craving how to and operate and increasing their knowledge. So I do think, John, that we probably want to sit down and put a little article in there here, we're going to make a change. We listened to the survey, and I was going to write an article, so I may take an opportunity to address that a little bit as well, and that can help that. But we took an opportunity to listen to you. We're going to try to address it. And we're not afraid to make a change. If it's not working well, we're going to talk about that in a minute anyway. If it's not working, we find out it's not working, we'll make another change and try to work and find something that is working for the membership to keep them engaged and to keep them wanting to come to the meetings and have them have a purpose for coming to that meeting, to have a why. So anyway, we can talk about that a little bit.
So what if we then, John, just send me the 2 topics, and then Joe, you want to put something together for an announcement to what you just said, and I can put that in the announcements section?
Yeah, it could be an announcement, or it could be more of an article around, because I was going to send you, Mike, I was going to send you an article around the membership survey, because we put it out there in Sparks last year. I was actually going to send you and write up an article about the membership survey to let the members know, hey, here's what we heard. 46 of you took the time to fill out the survey. Here's what 46 of you said. Here's how we digested it. Here's the action that we took from that membership survey. You should start seeing it this way. This is where you should start seeing it.
Awesome. Sounds great. Thank you.
Thanks, Joe. Mr. Plunk. All right. Okay. John, anything else?
No, I'm good.
Okay. Thanks for following up with that. I appreciate the work that you put into that. I know it's not easy, and I know everybody can critique that at all times, but I do think that is something that we're going to have to focus on going forward, because you've got to give people a reason why they need to come to the Delta Club, right? Why do they need to join the club? I don't know. I can use the repeater without being part of the club. But I think if we're given these kind of really good programs, that becomes an irresistible thing to pass up, right? I mean, where else in town are you going to go see somebody crimp power pole connectors or talk about coax? Don't know. So even if the program's not perfect, it's still, if you're the only hot dog vendor in town, your hot dogs don't necessarily have to be that good.
Well, not only it's not necessarily the topics. I don't think it's the topics either. I think it's the topics and the people. It's a combination of both, in my opinion.
Yeah, you come for the social aspect, you stay for the program, and I think that strongly supports that. So very interested there. If you do form a committee, let me know, because I will be, since I'm ex officio, I basically belong to every committee. So just put me in the list.
No problem. No problem.
Yep. And I'm glad to help. Okie doke. Thanks, buddy. All right. Mr. Lowenthal.
Okay. Extra class starts January the 6th. We've got 7 students, 3 from the Chattanooga area. David Wilson is one of the instructors, and he mentioned it in his club in December, and we've got 3 there. Tech class 224 will probably start either February 22nd or 29th. Not sure. Not sure whether it'll be in person or via Zoom. A lot depends on one getting a room and or what health issues are going on. Because I'm reluctant to give it if we've got high flu and COVID and all of that going on. ARRL club page needs to be refreshed with the new officers on it.
I believe Mary Jean's already done that for us and indicated that in the email, so that can be so recorded. Good point. Thank you.
That's all for right now.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate the thought and effort you put into that. That is awesome. And getting those new hams is really great. Thank you. All right, Mr. Barry.
I don't really have anything at this point, which is always a good thing. So, because anytime I talk, it costs us money.
Okay.
So, as far as I know, unless somebody can tell me different, everything's running good right at the moment.
Okay. All right. Okay. Perfect. All right. Thank you for that report, sir. Let's go to Mr. Lynn Grice, W4MKS.
I have nothing to report tonight.
Okay. Do we have any strategy for the new year in terms of what we're going to do to kind of up our social media presence? That's what I've been kind of wondering for this year.
The best communications we have is our email list to should be every Ham and Shelby County in this part of the world, as well as our newsletter that goes to all these people directly into their mailboxes. News media in Memphis is pretty much dead. You've got a commercial appeal that has a circulation rate of less than 30,000. They closed the Memphis Press Scimitar when it reached that rate. You don't have reporters locally doing anything about. The only thing that we actually get covered in the news is our field day activities, and we have one station coming there most years, and that's because we have a member that gets his TV folks out there early on a Sunday morning.
Okay.
So
I'd like you to consider getting yourself a committee together, because a lot of the young folks, I'm not really doing this, but a lot of the young folks get a lot of images and media through YouTube and through Instagram, Facebook, those kinds of things, Twitter.
Mary Jean does Facebook.
Yeah, Mary Jean does the Facebook.
Well, no,
stuff.
Mary Jean used to do the Facebook because she's now president emeritus. She has other things, is what I understand. She has other responsibilities. And I've talked to her about that. So that torch has already been passed on, but I'm not going to do that as the president. That needs to come from the public information director and his committee. So I would like you to spend some time and thought on that, please, and come back to us with some kind of a plan, a committee, something to an action item, an action plan for this year about what we can do. Because drawing in those hams, there's a whole bunch of us here in town, and we're only having, what do we have typically on a meeting? 30 people, 30 to 40
45.
people. Okay, fair enough. So under 50 people, and there's several thousand in Memphis, a couple thousand at least. And actually, yeah, I think a couple thousand. So we're trying to reach those people, and I think we got a better chance if we're doing stuff in social media and hitting them where they're at. So I would appreciate that.
You might need somebody that's more used to working in the media section that you're talking about.
Yeah, maybe you could find a couple of guys that are hams and put them together. You've been doing this for a while, so you have a lot of knowledge in the area, but maybe you don't know how to do that one thing that they know how to do. I actually
have a hard time doing that. That's why I retired from what I was doing, is I didn't know what I was doing.
Oh, but sorry. I'm sorry. Well, I did reach out to another individual that was new to the club, and they're interested in helping you if you want to try to put together a committee and run that. That would be very much appreciated. And he used to work in the media.
Well, that's great. Send me his name. It'd been nice if you'd have told me that when you started the conversation. Sharing information is a two-way street.
Yeah, I understand. I just talked to him very recently, so it was not in time to put it in here. But I did want to offer that, and I didn't want to preclude anything.
Offer a suggestion. Most people offer it and say, "Here's some help that I think might help you."
Well, I wanted to give you a chance. Well, just to be fair, I did give you a chance to talk first.
That sounds like you're railroading, but that's all right.
Lynn, I don't appreciate that. I would appreciate it if you'd stop. Just stop doing that during the meeting.
I know it, and I don't appreciate you.
There's no reason to be talking that way to me.
I said, why don't you get somebody to do it that you feel more comfortable with?
Okay, I accept your resignation. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the next person, Mr. Mike Harrison.
Yep, I have been working on updating the Sparks with the information that's been provided. So, that should come out on Saturday or probably usually it'll be like the Sunday like we normally do. So I'll be targeting getting Sparks out to the membership as we have in the past. I have not really done anything to the website yet. I did receive Joe in your bios, so I'll be updating that as well before Sunday as well.
Okay.
And I did receive something from Mr. Joe that he wanted me to update, so I'll be working on that as well.
Okay.
Mike, can I ask you a real quick question? What's the time frame that you prefer to get your articles and such? And is there a pre-circulation of Sparks that goes around, or do you just gather it and send? What's the back end process that isn't necessarily been seen?
Yeah. So normally what I do is, I wait for all the articles to come in usually, or whether or not they're in or not, I'll usually do it on Sunday, and put all the articles together. And once I get all that together, I send it out to the board for them to review. And then once I've gotten feedback from the board, then I make all the updates that I receive, and then send the email to Mr. Joe, and he sends out the email to the membership via the Delta Club email
list.
We have
is that the same?
Go ahead, Joe. Sorry.
Is that the same email list that is in the membership spreadsheet file, or is that a different email list?
Different one.
Okay. But it's updated from that. Every time we receive new memberships, it's added.
I have a thought there that I'm like to quickly just touch on. I'll do that when I get to my point, but I think it's a tool that might help Joe and Mike. It might help us with that issue, because I know that you guys have that gargantuan task of sending out all those emails, and I've listened to some of the previous board meetings where you kind of had to manage that and corral it, and also had to split them up by days to get the numbers out. Is that still the case?
No, it goes out the same day, just on two different Gmail accounts.
Okay. Well, this would allow you
to one is Delta Club and one is mine.
Okay. Well, this would allow you to manage it and send it all from one spot. So that might be something that we can take a look at. I'll talk about that more in a minute, but just to kind of put the idea out there.
Joe, what goes out on your account? Just curious.
About 150 emails, addresses.
To whom is in particular? Former wives, former members, email list. Trainees.
It's probably some email trainees, people requesting Sparks from other clubs. We've just generated a list from over the years of emails where people want to receive the email.
Okay.
It's about 650
just thought I'd ask.
emails.
Okay.
Thank you. Just didn't know. Just was curious.
Yeah.
Appreciate you doing that.
I tell you, it doesn't take but just a few minutes to do it off the two. As long as I have access to the Delta Club Gmail account.
Okay. So Ty, just to give you a little bit of background, we used to use MailChimp, and we could send out one email via MailChimp, and then about mid-year last year, they came back and essentially said that you can send no more than 500 emails off of your account.
Oh.
And so, and then they were going to charge us for doing more than that. And that's when we decided, to go ahead and do the club email and send out close to the 500 via the club email. And then Mr. Joe sends out the other from his account. So just a little bit of background.
Okay. Well, cool. I just want to make sure, in my role here, I want to make sure I'm taking care of you guys and make sure that I'm taking care of, making those processes easier. So, I'll try to look for things that will help, but,
Joe Plunk, to answer your question, as soon as you can get an article to Mike, send it. Isn't that right, Mike?
Yes, sir.
Yes, yes.
Okay. And when's your when is the deadline? Because I was thinking about something else that you said.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I would like to have everything by Saturday, and then that way I can have Sunday to work on it. So
okay. Does sending it earlier help you at all? Does that make any difference?
I mean, no, really.
It checks
not
off the list that he's got it.
Sure, but I mean, does that, in other words, are you having any problems with people not sending you things on time is what I'm getting at?
No, not really. No.
Okay. Perfect.
No, I don't have that issue. So, just as long as I get it, by the end of the day, Saturday, and then that way, I work on what I can, and then Sunday's kind of like the last day that I would work on it and try to send it out to get the feedback from the board.
Okay, cool. All right. Any other items that we need to cover, Mike?
Not for me, no, sir.
Okie doke. Thank you for that. I appreciate you doing that. That's a gargantuan task too, putting all that stuff together every time. Takes a lot of effort and concentration. Appreciate
everybody does such a good job. It makes it easy on me. So, working with good people,
Agree. Thank you very much. All right. Let's go to Ms. President Emeritus, Mary Jean Hall.
All right. I believe most everything is transitioned over. So the checking and CDs, we got all that done. Sent Ty everything like documents and all that. Gave him the login information for Gmail, YouTube, and Zoom. And then I still am listed on the Facebook, but kind of like you mentioned, and we've added, I think, Joe Plunk and Ty, but I did share some concerns with him that it would be nice to get somebody where it actually falls under that role of marketing or media or publications or however it needs to be allotted to somebody who can do that more consistently. Because like if you go back and look, especially from like September, or really August until December, I was not posting consistently, and Steve was not posting consistently. But Steve Frazier typically posts his material, like his recordings, and then I'll try to share stuff as I can, but it has not been consistent. So we do need to figure out where that can fall under. And multiple people probably need to have access to that Facebook page to make it easier, but it does need to officially go under a different category, I think. So Joe had mentioned this, and I knew he would. The ARRL club page has been updated, and I also sent Ty an email explaining like how to get there and log in to update it for later, because I'm sure that he'll need to do that. So I did send him that, but at least for the year, we've done the update as far as officers. So that's done. The only big thing that I'm going to work on right now, I'm working on getting a new scanner. I had ordered one, but it didn't work when it came in. So I've got to order a different one. And that is a personal scanner, not something for the club, but I still have all the documents here from where we had a couple old issues with Sparks and things like that. So I still want to go through and scan those, since we don't have a place to store it anyway. Unless we need to move it, I'm fine leaving them here until we figure out what's going on with the Ellendale Church of Christ a little bit later on. And hopefully by then I'll have them all scanned, and then maybe send them to Mike if we want to have a page where we can show some historical stuff on the website. So that's kind of my goal with that, since it's sitting around, make some use out of it. And then I added this as we were talking about this. I totally forgot about the issues that we had with register.com. And I had gone through, they had added me as somebody on there. And I want to say that I had gone in and actually that was my credit card information, I believe. But for some reason I couldn't get certain things changed, like email addresses and all that. So like, I'm going to try to see if I can't log in. I'm really going to try to do that in the next 2 or 3 days, because once school starts, I don't know. I imagine it's going to be pretty hectic. So I'm going to try to log on in the next few days and forward that information for what I can find out. And then the only other big thing, we did run into a hiccup. I know earlier last year when we switched everything over, they didn't require social security cards. They just required a form of ID. I don't even think they looked at a second form of ID when I got added on. But then they wanted a social security card from Ty and wouldn't take 2 forms of ID. So the only thing I would suggest is maybe, I mean, we could take that, but we didn't know about it a year ago. So I would assume that the management of that branch changes the process and what's the required items. So I just might recommend, like, whenever the next transition happens, whether it's in a year from now or 2 years from now, that maybe whoever it is just call up there, go by and just say, hey, what do y'all require now? And that way it's not too bad. And it worked out. We got it all done, but just something to keep in mind. So as far as I know, everything's switched over and ready to go. And I look forward to hopefully just listening in where I can, but if not, I'll be around if he's got questions and all that. So excited to see how the year turns out.
Thank you very much for that. And thank you for handling all that stuff off very quickly. I appreciate that. That helped a lot and enabled Mr. Plunk and I to dive into things and kind of come into this meeting ready to rock and roll with you guys as much as we could. Having not been here for a long time. Okay. Anything else we want to add, Mary Jean?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much for your service. What you were for 6 or 7 years president, I think, right? 7. So thank you for that.
I think it was the board for 6, but it was president for two of those. Okay. So it's still a long time.
That's right.
A long time. I can't imagine how Joe feels. Well, Scott's been on here a while, so a couple of y'all have been on here longer than me.
Been doing it a long time, but thank you very much. Okay, let's hand it over to Mr. Joe Plunk, NS4E, the vice president.
All right, so this is going to take a few minutes, Ty, so I'm just going to apologize now for going over. So I just, it's going to take a couple more minutes than it's going to just to walk through a couple of this. So I want to jump into a quick screen share if I can make this work. You'll have to stop for a second. Let me share the screen, because the best way to make this kind of work is to just go and share the results. This is the results screen from the Google Forms that I created for the membership surveys. So far we've had 46 total responses. And if you look at this, we've had 9 of those are anonymous. And everybody else that was not anonymous provided their call sign. I found that of the 46 responses, the responses that we got, 11 are not a current paid member of the club, 35 are. So if we look at 35 members that are paid responding to us, and our total paid membership right now is at 108 members, we've got a pretty good sample size of the total membership. Would like to have a little more, but that's a pretty good sample size, pushing 25% of the total member population of 108 members that were paid for 2023. I found this particular survey question to be very telling. This was a straight up answer of a request of the person that was filling out the survey. Do they consider themselves an active member? Right at 35% or 16 of the respondents said no. And that's something that I feel pretty convicted that we want to change. And we got some detail down in the questions below that kind of give us some guidance as to how the membership is asking us to get them more involved. 30 said that they were active. Our license class of the people that are taking the survey, right now the sample size is very extra heavy, meaning that 25 of the respondents are extra, 16 are general, and we only have had currently 2 technicians take the survey and 3 advanced licenses. This response here to me was also very, very telling. Regardless of what the club's membership, they pretty much all operate and use VHF, UHF, aka the repeater community within town. There was one gentleman, and I know this respondent, he's a CW only guy and he only does HF. Other than that, everybody operates in some form or fashion VHF, UHF, and uses the repeaters in town, which is we kind of knew that, but we didn't really have a data point that said, yeah, it's as conclusive as we thought it was. This particular question was informative to me, in that the 11 respondents that were of the 46 responded back, they don't operate HF at all, or in some limited fashion, or they don't consider themselves as HF operators. Which just a real quick, for the extra heavy licensure that we have in the survey sample, I found that, to have 25%, give or take, of the respondents not using their license privileges is interesting. Just as a data point in and of itself. And that gives us some directive as a club organization. How do we provide a mechanism for our memberships to start really truly leveraging their full licensure? How do we make HF fun? How do we make HF something that they're interested in and not something that they don't want to do? How do we, maybe a compromised antenna class is what we need to have, so that I'm just spitballing for a second. I just found that response very interesting, that many people aren't using their license class. These were the emergency services that were listed. Skywarn is by far and away the leading example of what emergency service that people are involved in, followed by Aries, followed by none. This question was very interesting to me. The question was, what modes of operation are you most interested in? The leading modes right now are single sideband, FM, and then DMR as a digital UHF, VHF. So those are the top 3, followed very closely by FT8 or data modes. Everything else was very low response counts. So we've got some very clear leaders in the top 3 category of what the members that took the membership survey are interested in seeing from a mode of operation. And then this is the volunteer activities that we ask our responses for. Providing communications for a public charity event is 16, and tied with that is train of the club in times of need, 17. The leading example is serving the community in times of need. So the membership that took the survey is very interested in being able to use the skills that they have as operators to be able to help and assist and serve in the community. That's strange
because public service events have had very little support from people.
Yeah, we got to work on that.
Yep, that may be something that we change how we're marketing that public service event to, hey, let's go serve the community. Let's serve it through the technology and operation skills that we have. So that's something that might give us some insight into. It may be simple, Joe, to your point. The wording of how we're pitching it may just need to be pitched a little differently. So that's a good takeaway. Thank you. And then here was what topics would make you attend a future club meeting. This this got, as we went in the mid 30s to the high mid 40s, this tightened up. There were very clear leaders while these were coming in, but it's gotten a lot tighter now that we've gotten more responses. The takeaway leader right now is how-to presentations, how to do something as a ham radio operator. The second most response is to increase their ham radio knowledge. And then in a virtual dead heat, we've got general ham operations, and then unlock new modes with 21 and 22. So these are in a virtual tie. I'd give these as a virtual tie. So really wanted to highlight this particular data point. This is the driver that we feel around revamping, reorganizing, and representing how and what we're presenting at club meetings, is to really change the topics that are there to really address this membership survey data point. Now, in all truthfulness here, we may get to a point where we say the membership is tired of what we're doing and they want to see something different. And I've got a topic that I'll circle back up in my slide in just a minute about that. I'll need some feedback from the group on that one. What club activity would you definitely not be interested in? Did not get a whole lot of good feedback from this question. If we redo this survey in the future, this question is going to need to be streamlined and restructured. This freeform answer did not yield good results. What I can do just real quick, if you're interested in seeing all of the results, I can export each one of the results and I can send it out to the board and you can read all the freeform results. I found these two were required responses on a scale of 0 to 5, 5 being most, 0 the least. How relevant are the club activities to the way you operate? Initially, this was very low. In the last 10 responses or so, this has ticked up pretty substantially in the 3 and 4 range to being relevant to the way the club members feel that the presentations are to their operations. And then the second one here is we asked the question, what do the club activities help you, or are they relevant to the equipment you choose? It was very mixed here. There was not a decisive answer here, although I will say in the last 5 to 10 responses, the 3 and the 4s have picked up. And then we did have a freeform comment here. What are the comments, pro or con, about club meetings in general? And we got some very good responses. I'll scroll down through these and you can read them pretty quickly if you want. There was a couple of themes in these responses. The themes that I picked up out of this is a lot of the members would like to see Zoom come back in some shape, form, or fashion if we could make that work, just due to the fact of travel and nighttime travel. And a lot of the comments were around the social aspects of the meetings and being able to connect with old friends. And then there were a couple of comments in here around kind of how to do stuff. You know, hey, I'd like to get some more stuff to do. And then we asked this freeform question, the club would be better if, and then we got additional sets of freeform responses. And then here are those responses. There wasn't as a decisive theme in these responses as there were in the other section. Again, these freeform questions would probably need to get for initial surveys. If we redo some surveying, we get more into a little more concrete survey answers and not quite so much freeform, just to try to get some more concrete data out of it versus freeform responses. This was a construction error on the question. We asked what one repeater or frequency they use. This really should have been an option instead of freeform. That way we could have presented like top 10 and people could have picked it and we would have gotten better survey data from that. And then this was a freeform response of why they use that repeater, and it was all over the map. Again, this was kind of a wasted response. So those are the responses that we got for the membership survey. Again, a couple of the points that I found very convicting in this were which topics would make you attend the future club meeting. I'll screenshot this and send this out if anyone's interested. And then activities to volunteer in, and then modes of operation. And then I found it very interesting regarding the modes of operation and then our license mix. So in conjunction with that, let's see if I can switch screens. Can you ever see that now?
No switch.
Just
all right, let me
same as it
switch
was
that.
before.
One moment. Yep, one moment, please. All right, let me reshare that. There we go. So in light of that, because I wanted to do a little bit of digging into what is our total potential membership in the Memphis metro market. So I did a little bit of digging into the environments that are out there and found some sources to kind of query how many amateur radio operators are in the Memphis metro market. So I found a definition of the Memphis metro market. These are the zip codes. I went and dug those zip codes out through two different sources. Bestplaces.net had a sources. I did some digging into their data. Their data included inactive hams. And then I went to AE7Q and was able to do some zip code queries and pulled some numbers. And AE7Q only pulls active hams. So I haven't done, because the Memphis zip code list is quite extensive, I haven't done all of those. But for the smaller suburban markets, those markets represent right at 1,000 hams. With our membership being right at 108 paid members per the spreadsheet, we do have substantial room to grow. And one of the things that I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but one of the things that I did find interesting in the data set that I pulled is, I'm going to go to the bottom in the technicians. This is the Bartlett information. In the Bartlett set of zip codes, there were 9 technicians minted last year in 2023. And there were also there were 5 that upgraded from technician to general, and then there were an additional 4 that upgraded from general to extra. So the takeaway that I took from all this data, and the data tracks within each one of the data sets, it's that same same percentage breakdown, both in Collierville, Germantown, Millington, and Arlington. The takeaway that I took from this is there's not a lot of licensee growth that we're getting within the ham radio operator organizations. So we've got to work hard as a task that I'm taking on within the membership world to grow our membership. We've got a lot of work to do to reach out to these existing amateur radio licensees to try to get them engaged in our club. And so that this membership survey that's saying, hey, we're interested in how to operate and increasing our knowledge, we've got to figure out how to appeal to other operators so that we can grow our membership, with the goal being taken on of growing our membership. And that's what that data set was for.
Joe,
go ahead,
in
Joe.
Shelby County, it's about 1,700 licensed hams.
That would track about right, sir, because if you look right over here, this particular column adds up to 2,700, but that also includes inactive. So if you throw the inactives out, that would track about right. So that's fantastic. So let me stop this share, and then we'll go back to the slides, Ty. And we'll talk about the remaining points. So while Ty is shifting, are there any questions about the membership survey or that data set that I was kind of querying to kind of create some talking points?
Can you send it to me? I'd like to be able to look at it a little bit closer.
I sure will. I will export the membership survey results into a spreadsheet. And I'll also send you that spreadsheet that I was sharing there of the metro area. The one thing that I would ask is if you would take the membership survey results and treat that as non-distributable. In other words, don't distribute it outside the board. I would appreciate that.
Okay.
Just it's not confidential by any means. It is just sensitive.
I was going to bring up a point back. I'm sorry, I just interrupt something, but if you go back to your sheet, looks like Knoxville had a lot more amateur radio operators than Shelby County.
They do. I haven't. I'll pull that back up. Let me reshare, Ty. So I will share that real quick. No, it's just Knoxville, by far and away, is at least at a minimum twice the size of the Memphis metro area, even above Davidson, Nashville, even above by far and away Knoxville. And this is from bestplaces.net. They have a query where you can run amateur radio licenses. It's a little flawed because they do include inactives, and I can show you that data if you're interested, but I digress.
I just bringing that point up. It was just that Knoxville just seems to be a smaller entity, but I guess it could be the county itself too. So no, just being nosy.
Yeah, there's some outliers in the Knoxville market. Oak Ridge is in that market. There's a large scientific community in that area. So I mean, there's some outliers that that explain Knoxville a little bit, but yes, Knoxville is by far and away the largest in the state.
Yeah.
Okay, back to the deck. So the other topics for my presentation, I do want to reach out to a couple of data sets that we have within our grasp. I want to look through the membership spreadsheet that is currently being used, and look through and find members that haven't renewed over the past 2 years and try to reach out to them and understand why they haven't renewed. And then the other challenge that we're facing is we have only gotten, per the spreadsheet that was sent out, we've only gotten 24 renewals for 2024. So we've got to really focus on getting our membership to get their renewals in for 2024. So that's going to be an ongoing challenge. And then, Joe, I do want to reach out to you and get some data that you might have on your training classes, and see how many of those training class members have actually joined the Delta Club, or if any of them did or didn't. I want to try to do a little data analysis on that. So those are a couple of things that I want to try to get some additional hands-on data to try to figure out if we can drive, pardon the expression, but kind of a low-hanging, low-effort membership drive to find people to join the club and drive our membership up a little bit. With new members, we get additional revenue for the bank, and we get additional input and human equity that we get into the club of knowledge and experience that we'll be able to bring to the table for the club. So that's one of the reasons. And then I'm going to move down to the new action items.
Okay.
Meeting surveys. I feel pretty strongly if we're going to be working and responsive to the membership and making some changes to the programs, I want to give the membership a way for them to feedback to us to whether or not that was good or bad. So at the dinner that we had, we came up with an expression that we're going to use for this end of meeting survey that we'd like to talk through, and I think we're going to call it the signal report. And we're gonna figure out how to get a 2 or 3 question survey to every member right at the end of the meeting, that they snap a QR code on their phone, answer 3 questions. And the feedback that I need from the board right quick is, what 3 questions should we ask them? Is it a simple, was this a valuable use of your time, or was this a good presentation, or just 3 quick responses that gives us guidance of, was that something that was good, or do we need to go to do better? That's what I'm trying to drive for the end of meeting survey.
Comments?
Did you like it? Was it relevant? two questions.
I like it. I agree.
Like to serve on the board.
What about the open forum about what would you like to see?
That's funny too.
The challenge with that is
that in your data.
Yeah, we could ask that question, but I'd like to try to give them specifics because having set choices makes the data better within the survey. Free-form responses don't come back very well. And Joe, what was your specific statements that you had?
Right.
I wanted to make a note real quick.
Did you like the meeting? Was it relevant?
Okay, John, what were you saying? There was one other one in there. I think it was John.
I think John left the
John
meeting.
Strop.
John did.
Yep. All right, I'll circulate some questions.
I like keeping it simple. You know, did you enjoy tonight's presentation? Was it helpful to you as a ham, or was it helpful to? Will it help you be a better ham? Or are you all better off for it, or something along those lines? But basically, I like what Mr. Lowenthal said.
All right.
What about, do you want to serve on the committee or serve on a committee or something?
There you go.
That's a good one.
We can ask that.
Or like even playing off that idea, you know, maybe something like, do you feel encouraged to do more or get on the air more, you know, something. So maybe not necessarily that specifically, but like, do they feel like they got something that encourages them to do something more?
Right. Or to give a presentation,
I don't know how to simplify that,
or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to do anymore.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, one person CW only. You know, that's the beauty of ham radio. There's so many different segments that you can get into, and we're in the FM segment. It just so happens that 55% of or probably 60% are capable of HF operation. Whether the biggest part of non-HF is because of the community HOAs and not being able to put up a tower and have antennas.
Yeah.
Right.
The difference between a rural club and a metropolitan is because of the antenna restrictions.
Right.
That's a good point.
Something for us to consider as
so
we go forward.
So maybe one of the questions we ask them is, would you be interested in stealth antennas? I don't know. Anyway, I will try to circulate some of these ideas to try to quantify this, because I really want to try to get this put together the same format that we use for the membership survey. I want to have that Google Forms survey for the end of meeting. I don't want to publish it. I really want it to be, you have to be in the room to get the QR code with the link. You pop the QR code, it pops up on your phone, you answer the 3 questions, and you move on. Makes it easy. I'm not wanting to be long, not wanting to be hard, just 2 or 3, 4 tops, real quick feedback questions of, was it useful? Because one of the things I also feel convicted of, the membership has asked us through the membership survey to change, but we may not change in the direction they expect us to. We need to give them the opportunity to give us feedback, so that if we didn't change in the direction they want, we can pivot quickly and kind of move to their needs quickly.
Well, it looked like
that's what I'm hoping to accomplish.
26 out of the 36 were satisfied with the current meetings.
Twenty-six out of the 36 were satisfied with the current meetings.
Yeah, you had wasn't it 12 and 14 that were on towards the last slide, that you were asking in the past what they thought about the meetings, or
Those were how relevant are club activities to the way you operate? And then how relevant are club activities to the equipment you choose? Those were
the
the
way you
0 to
operate, I
5
guess.
bars.
It was most prominent. There were 2 bars that were
more there's
so than
13 were 3 and 15 were 4. So how relevant are the club activities to the way you operate? So we had a total
28.
of 28 responses that were 3, 4, and if you add the 6s, which were 5, that was 34 that said that the club activities are relevant to the way that they are operating. 13, 15, and 6
that makes
were
sense,
3,
right?
4, and 5.
If you build it, they're coming. They're
Agreed.
looking for that.
So if that's the case, then it looks like they don't want a whole lot of change. They're happy with the way it's going.
That's not the conclusion that I drew at all. It's interesting.
Well, the numbers are there that they're satisfied with what's going on.
If that was the case, though, why are the numbers, the attendance so low relative to how many hams are in town?
A lot,
yeah,
more so do HF, and they're talking around the world and don't want to talk locally.
Well, but the interesting thing that I took, Joe, is the same slide where it was what topics do you want to see at future club meetings, was conclusively how to do stuff.
Okay.
I mean, right, 33 responses said they wanted to see how to do something, followed very quickly by 26 that wanted to do something to increase their knowledge of how to do amateur radio operations. And then the next one right after that was just general ham operations. So I think there is some validity to what you're saying around that they are content with the way that they're operating, that the current activities are helping them operate correctly. But if we also look at the data set that we asked them, okay, what do you want to see in a future meeting, at a future club meeting? The additional things that they were wanting to see is like, how do I do stuff? How do I increase my ham radio knowledge? How do I unlock a new mode, which was number 4, right behind just general operations. I mean, so there's
more to it than just that. Yeah.
Well, we addressed a number of those issues with Ham 101 prior to COVID.
Yeah. Which part of me wonders, like, because I know y'all talked about closing out this survey and then even doing the short mini surveys, but like, would you want to, with a couple changes that you talked about, would you want to come in 6 months from now or a year from now and do the full survey again to see, like, if it went up from, like, so if it was, if a decent chunk said that they feel like they're benefiting operation wise, but like, if we couldn't get that to 45 out of 45, where, more people are thinking that maybe, like, would y'all want to come back and do the full survey again 6 months or 12 months from now?
Absolutely.
To compare it.
I absolutely want to rerun this survey in about 6 months. I would want to keep a lot of the questions the same. I'd probably throw most of the free form responses out, but I would very much want to run the same survey again at about the 6 month mark to see if they changed. Very much want to do that. All right, Ty, the last thing was to talk about Ham Club Online. I'm going to let you talk about that and how it can take attendance, and I'm going to yield back some time because we're running over. So I apologize for taking extra time, but it took a little extra time to dive into the survey results. Yep. Everyone, thank you for your questions, your responses, good information. Mary Jean, Joe, I appreciate everything. Mike, appreciate your feedback and thoughts on that.
Hey, Joe, I sent you a chat. Could you respond to that, please?
What?
Sure can.
I'm sorry, Plunk.
So I had a few items I wanted to bring up that was kind of based on some of the data and some of the other things. First of all, again, wanted to just start out by saying thanks to Mary Jean, making sure that stuff got handed over. Thanks to Jim coming on basically, time out of their personal schedule to deal with the club business. So thank you for that. And actually, I wanted to say thank you for all those who came to the little dinner that we had. Several of you came to the board dinner. Jim liked it the most, and he has voted that his #1 favorite event of the year. So thank you for the feedback. I think we'll repeat that next time your first margarita's on me.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah. So
see you tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay. See you tomorrow. But all seriousness, I think that was a great kind of non-formal way to kind of get together and shoot around some topics. So I would it's obviously an optional thing, right? It's not required, but it would be great if you guys do get a time, or feel free to shoot back an alternative time. I will send out an invite for that. I'd like to, at least during the winter months when people are kind of hunkered down and at home and stuff, take advantage of some of that, a little bit of that downtime, and let's go have a taco or something together. And we don't have to spend a lot of money to do it. We can still do a, low cost thing, but being together and kind of hanging out, kind of getting on the same page as some of these and hearing each other out, that's a great time to do that, and hopefully make this meeting a little bit quicker too. So that said, the significant accomplishments or things that are in progress, I went ahead and started looking into a couple things because something kind of became apparent to me. It's a little bit challenging to try and collaborate on a document like this one without everybody having a Google account, and then it also becomes very difficult to hand off things because of the way that Gmail works with the two-factor authentication and stuff. So Mary Jean and I are laughing every time because it's still, even though we've changed all the info, it's still asking for some of her stuff sometimes. So we'll figure that out. I'm not going to stress about it, but I did want to get some kind of bring you guys up to speed on what I was trying to do, and then see if we can get some board approval on a couple of items. The first one is I want to try to get the Google G Suite, which is your slide deck, your Google spreadsheets, your Google documents. And that allows us to do our documents, and then we can just share the link by clicking on this little icon right here on the upper right. I can add you guys in, and you're able to share and edit. Or if there's people that are on committees, maybe they need to be commenters or viewers, and that's like an instant thing. That just really helps on the collaboration front, at least with the board. But I'd really like to see if we can do that. It is possible to get it for free for a nonprofit. And I've started the process and looking to see, if we can get that going and if we qualify for that. So that, Jim, that's my reason for asking questions about the EIN and kind of, are we 501c3 or not? And all that is just around trying to figure out, will we qualify for Google's, freebie there? If we don't, I might go ahead.
No, I was just agreeing with you.
Mm-hmm. If we don't qualify for that, I may try to do that a little bit differently. We may try to see how much how many of those accounts we need, at least for the board positions, and see if we can do that. And I'll put together those numbers, but I'm first try to get that for free. So that's that. And I would like to get some kind of a board approval for this, because just for testing that out. I'm not trying to force it on you, but I know, because I use this all day at work every day, it's just the absolute easiest low cost way to do that. So I'd like to get some understanding that I'm trying to do that, and see if everybody's on board with that, or if there's any oppositions to doing that.
I'm not sure.
I don't really know what it is. I mean,
what it is
similar to Zoom?
Okay, so what we're using right now is a Google slide deck, like PowerPoint, right?
So
if we don't have that, that means you guys need to use your Google accounts going forward. The other thing is
potentially mean. I was going to say, Ty, real just quick. What it could potentially mean is the Google offers nonprofit and not-for-profit organizations, if they qualify, they offer them a suite of tools, usually either for free or very low cost, that allow you to create spreadsheets, PowerPoints, Word documents, and do all of that in an interactive, collaborative fashion. But the other thing they also allow you to do is they would allow us to have board officers and other members could have deltaclub.org email addresses as well. So we would be able to leverage position-specific email addresses going forward for the club instead of individuals' particular emails. That email history would be preserved within the account, and that account history would be preserved for ingoing and transitioning officers coming in and out, and going both in and out, so that there would be a long-term history for that. It's also a way for us to store documents. There's a drive, there's a Google Drive space that you can share documents on. There's a way for us to file historical things and pictures and other things that we could do with that. It's just a way, instead of having our assets scattered over multiple people's places, we pull it into our organizational accounts and have it as the organization's property versus individuals that are scattered around different places. There are some hoops that we're going to have to jump through to say, hey, Google, we are a not-for-profit or nonprofit organization. We do qualify. Here's all the boxes to check and tech. And then they'll say, yep, you qualify. And then they'll give us I don't know how many accounts they'll give us, but they could give us one for every board member, every position on the board, 10 accounts basically. So we would have 10 different unique people that would be able to use the tools and collaborate and have unique specific emails. And we'd be able to have a distribution list that said, hey, if you want info@deltaclub.org, you send it and it goes to all the board. Or if you want to talk about membership, you send it to membership@deltaclub.org and it goes to the right people. All of that comes with that suite of applications and tools that Google provides. And it transitions the way and allows us to operate as a little more polished, a little more effective, a little more upscale. Not that we're not, I'm not trying to say that. It just elevates us. That's the right word I'm looking for. It just elevates us as an organization with the tool sets that we have available to use.
Why don't you come back with what the cost is and then we'll discuss it.
That's what I'm trying to say here. There's no cost at doing this in Plan A. So that's what I'm trying to get approval on that. So I'm not just trying to do that on my own.
Right. So I think what Ty's looking for, and I think I'll make a motion to allow Ty, I'd motion that we allow Ty to investigate, pursue with Google what it would take to have the deltaclub.org and the Delta Club organization use the Google tool sets. And the keyword here be investigate, not move us to yet, but just to investigate it and come back with information on it.
Right.
Okay. I mean, you were saying that there was a cost, so that's why I said find out what the cost is.
Yeah, if they don't accept us as a nonprofit, they have certain criteria that you have to meet. And so if we wouldn't meet it for some reason, then we would potentially need to pay, and that's when I would come with that information to the next meeting. Hopefully that makes better sense.
Well, I will say, can y'all hear me? By the way, I changed the,
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
That, I mean, especially if it's free, I kind of wish that we would have had that earlier, and I can't speak for different ones, but I know like a secretary, that would have been nice to have like, a designated email address. And I do feel like it's been nice having the Delta Club w4bs@gmail.com account, because we still had a little bit of switchover, but like not having to go, and I mean, that's literally on the Facebook page, the YouTube page, the ARRL site. So like it was only having to switch login information versus having to go and update all the personal stuff. To me, it's made it a lot easier transitioning out than it was transitioning in before we had that. So I mean, if that's free, personally, I mean, I know I can't vote on it, but I think that'd be potentially a huge help. Might take a little bit to set it up, but like if it helps with transitions, and it kind of, you know, I don't know, seems like a cool thing. Kind of wish we would have known about it a couple years ago.
Could this be a replacement for our I guess our GoDaddy for the web page to put Sparks on it, or would this be just only for board member communication?
Very, very good question. So it would primarily be for board member communication, but it does, I believe it does have in the packet a Google Sites. I'll check on that though to confirm. But I believe it has Google Sites, which would maybe let us roll that in, but we might have to redesign some stuff. So I have to check into that part of it. Because I don't want to make your life more complicated than it needs to be. But hey, if we can save, yeah. I mean, we'll have to look at it, right? Because saving $150 might not be worth it. Just depends on how much work it would be, right?
Yeah. I second the motion.
Okay. All right. And we get a vote then. Anybody that's for it, would you indicate a yay?
Yay.
Okay. Any nays?
Yes.
Okay. Any nays? Okay, and that unanimously approved. Thank you for that. I do appreciate that. That's one of the benefits of having a couple of IT guys in here. We'll be able to dig into this stuff. So I will do that, but I will come back and talk to you guys about stuff like that. I don't believe in Rambo.
I need to have you put my phone number and email address in on the Gmail account. So when there's the two-step verification, I can verify.
Okay, got it. Let me make a note about that real quick, Joe. Two-factor authentication. You're using that to send out the Sparks. What's your email address I need to put in?
Callsign@gmail.
Okay, and the phone number?
901-628-4318.
WA40VO@gmail. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Okay, I'll do that after the meeting. Okay, thank you for that. Next item is going to be a similar thing. Looking to get some board approval to check out another piece of software. This is connected to what Joe was asking for. So I'm going to do this. I'm going to sidebar here just for just a second. I want to get some approval here to try and explore this and possibly use this. So what I'm going to show you is a piece of software that's written by ham radio operators. It is for managing the club. There are many aspects to this, including taking the attendance and sending out email blasts, as well as collecting online payment. So I think, Jim, we kind of talked about this at the dinner. This might be a really good thing. I'm not attached or married to this in any way. I'm not affiliated with these guys. I just looked it up and found this with Joe Plunk, and I think this could be a beneficial tool. I'm going to share my screen quickly. I'm not going to dive into all this stuff. We can do a demo at a different time. Jim, I think that this would be something that we could kind of direct towards your team/committee if you want to do that. Let me look at the club menu here. So I went and I added this in just as a test, and basically it lets you kind of brand it. So this logo here becomes the Delta Club logo, and you've got a bunch of stuff here. So I'm not going to dive into all this, but you can actually add people to the club and watch this. KD4FUU. I'm going to add you to this. Oops. I must have missed a number. Sorry.
And I'm trying to get rid of one of those U's.
Oh, yeah. Okay, cool. Check it out. I didn't type anything in. It pulls up his name and his address, and it's there from the FCC database. And I can add him in here. And depending on how I've got this set up, he gets an email. So our process could be to put these guys in here, and then we have our vote on the new members. And as soon as we do that, we put them, activate that they get an email. And then they're going to get a notification when it comes time at the end of the year to renew their license, and they'll be able to do that, of course, in person if they need or want to, but then they'll also be able to use PayPal, or I think we talked about Square. It integrates with the software. So now you've got all your donations or all of your club dues coming in pretty quickly because they're getting an automatic, pester you, remind you email to go ahead and renew at a time interval that we decide. So you don't mind if I add you, do you, James? Jim.
Oh,
Sorry.
This is good.
Just reading on. I'm gonna do this just for a second, just so you can see how it looks, right? Gives him an ID number. You can put it that he's a member or an officer, and you could choose whether or not he gets a welcome email. So what I want to propose is that because in order to do our testing, in order to see if this actually would work, we're going to actually need to put a few people in here. What I'm proposing is we get a couple people together from the board. We're not going to put this, we're not going to put anybody on this yet, but just get this together as a board and just see if we can get the Square integrated with this and see if the payments would work online and see if Joe Plunk can do his things that he wants to do. I think that could be a big tool, and that would also help Mr. Lowenthal when you want to do a blast. You could just log into this thing and attach the sparks, and then send it out, and it would just be in one easy spot. So, and it's all tracked that way. So let's see. It's already. Oh, what's your email here, Jim?
ke4fu@gmail.com.
Gmail. Okay, cool. So I'm gonna do this, and then I'm gonna go back. You should get an email saying that you're added. But if we go back to the roster now, I can see that he's in the roster, that he's in Bartlett or Germantown, stuff like this. And
you need a nickname situation.
Yeah.
Of what people go by.
It's in there. Thank you for that. Good call. Appreciate that help. So when you get back here to manage your roster, now you've got Jim and Ty on your list. When you
should I have gotten a welcome?
You should have gotten a welcome email.
Okay. Hey, there it is. Added to the roster notification.
Mm-hmm. Now check this out. Let's well, I'm gonna stop there, but basically there are ways to get in here. You can actually track items for sale. Mr. Lowenthal, this may be useful to you. There's club assets that it lets you do, the newsletters and communications. I mean, it's just got a whole lot of stuff in here. And it seems like it could be a real great tool for us to get a lot of things done all at once. But the big driving factor for me, I know a lot of people were asking about online payments, and I just think just being able to do that would make it kind of worthwhile, not having to say no.
Yeah, I mean, we could put the club shirts in here as an item. They purchase a club shirt and immediately pay for it with PayPal or Square by a credit card. It doesn't even let them place the order without the payment going through. It's a club management system, and it evolves us from a spreadsheet to an actual management platform. Many of us in our work worlds use a management platform for our work, whether that's a project management tool, a customer resource manager, or an enterprise resource manager. It really is a ham radio club management tool that allows us to have a lot of tools, like going in and manage newsletter. You go in, all of our Sparks archives are archived up there, not only there, but on our website. So, I mean, it's a club management tool.
Right.
And in my mind, it lets us, as a board, not worry about the mechanics of how we're managing the club. Well, is the spreadsheet right, or is the Sparks uploaded, or it lets us work on focusing and gives us time back to go talk to our members or develop better programming or get out in front of other people instead of having to worry about updating a spreadsheet or writing an article. Or anyway, I'm digressing.
That is exactly the intent, is to try and help elevate us to doing the things that only we can do, which is talking to other folks about, our areas of responsibility and promoting the club. So, just like with the other one, just like with the Google Suite, I would like to see if I can get somebody to motion that and approve us digging into that and seeing if we can get it specifically for, the online payment and renewals, and then the other stuff that comes with it, obviously.
So moved.
I second.
Okay, and can we get anybody voting in favor of this? Can we get the yays?
Yay.
Yay.
Okay. Any opposed? Nay? Okay, no opposed. So recorded. Thank you very much for your confidence in that. I appreciate that, gentlemen and ladies. All right. Gonna mention something here. Obviously we're going long, so I'm just gonna make this quick. I did kind of mention earlier that I'd like to see you guys when you get to a hard question or something, it would be a good idea to have some committees. I was just kind of spending some time in thought, and I thought that it might be good, to have a biz committee, maybe to have a social media team, those kinds of things. I think, we'll have to, I'll have to kind of regroup and think through some of that. But one of the things I would like us to consider is to create a tech committee. And the tech committee is going to be something that I think is going to be pretty important for several things that we have going on and coming up. The tech committee is going to be a group of guys that are technical guys that want to help us get involved with any of our technical projects that we have coming up. So I think I'm going to, since we're kind of long this time, I think I'm going to try to introduce and go into that a little bit more on the next meeting. But I do want you guys to kind of consider that in your areas and teams as I said, kind of grooming people to become on the board, grooming people to, consider another position, or maybe, at some point you're going to transition off or retire or whatever. Or maybe you just need a backup. Maybe you just need somebody to bounce ideas off of for your area. Is absolutely encouraged by me, and I will help you. You tell me what you need and I will get involved. All right, so I'll table that for the next time, essentially. Yeah, working on setting up the items that were just voted on are going to be my team-specific actions. I would like to, I'm going to take up working with Jim on the Square piece to see how much that would take. I'm not going to dive into the weeds there, Jim, but one thing, if we go down that path and if everybody approves to do that, one thing that we probably want to consider there is not having all the money in the checking account, just in case something would happen for the online payment. We do need to kind of consider that, right? So in other words, keep your funds in a savings account and then just let, your checking account have whatever, checks you have out to be paid for reimbursements or whatever, plus a little bit of extra, but not a lot. That way we're not exposed there.
Yep, I agree.
Yeah, if we do it like that, we don't have to say no anymore when somebody says, "Hey, can you do it online?" Yeah, sure. Just swipe your card with the Square reader on your phone, or you can go to the website, whatever you prefer to tell them.
And we do already have a PayPal account created as well. We ran into some hiccups getting it on the website, but the PayPal account's there. So Jim has all that info when you get to that point, if you get to that point.
Okay. That's good to know.
I think Ham Club Online does integrate with PayPal as well. So that integration may already be like that.
It does. The thing that PayPal, or excuse me, the thing that that Square does that PayPal doesn't is Square gives you the little plug-in thing for your phone. So Jim, if you're at an event or if we're going to sell t-shirts and get reimbursement or whatever, you could have that on your phone at the moment when you're doing it, and it's a swipe of a card or inserting the chip. Because some people are just more comfortable with that as opposed to, hey, go online and fill out some form. They may not be hip to do that, so they may not feel comfortable doing that. And it just makes it faster to just swipe it in some cases. So you'll have to use your own discretion as to what you want to do there. But I think that's the thing that Square wins out over PayPal. But if you don't think that that would be useful, or you just don't want to do it for some reason, then we can go with the PayPal as well. Just try it out. So we'll talk about that. I'll set up some time when I can get to that one and dive in.
All right. Sounds good.
All right. Thank you. That's all I had. I really like this idea of changing the meetings to that 2 or 3 track idea. I think that's going to be killer for us. I hope that that's well received, and that's pretty much everything I had on my end. Was there any questions on anything that I presented? Anything specific I needed to get into further?
Okay. Hey, Joe, do you want Plunk? Do you want me to leave the survey in the announcement section for January, or do you want me to remove that and consider the survey closed?
I think what I was planning on doing, and I probably need to. It's a good question. I forgot about that, so thanks for bringing that back up. I was going to mention it in my article for that Sparks, that it was going to close at the end of the January membership meeting. So at the end of next week's meeting, I'll put it in my article. We can move the link down to the article, but that membership survey would close because it would literally be open for about a month, and that's plenty long. I think we'll just go ahead and close it at the end of the membership meeting this month. And I'll write that up and go from there.
Okay, I'll leave it in there, and we will be having FCC testing Tuesday night, Mr. Joe.
Yes.
Okay, that's all I had. Thank you.
Okay. I think I did not hear this from the events, Scott, but there's let me jump back into this for just a second. There's one last thing here. This is the 2024 board reminder list. It was called a to-do list, but I just called it a reminder list. I need to show this real quick, and I wish the other board members were here. So I hope if they're watching this, they do review this. I think this is something I got from Mary Jean. This is just a kind of your things that are coming up, right? We didn't really talk about swamp stompers. That I meant to bring that up earlier. I'm sorry, I was thinking about my stuff, but I want you guys, I just want to encourage you to it's fine for us to have this list so that we don't forget things. Absolutely fine. I love it. But I want you to put your things in your area. So when you do your update on the next meeting, your action items and stuff like that, I would like to see you guys put those into your thing. So for the events, that would be the upcoming events, the Swamp Stompers, and we discussed the fiscal members to renew current memberships. We're going to investigate this tool. So that's kind of Joe's thing, Joe Plunk. So we'll talk about that and action that. And then the vote on Memphis Free Fest donation, I did not cover that one.
We covered it in the budget.
Yeah, we talked about it there. So just make sure I understand. So we don't need to donate anything, right? Because they've done that for us.
No, we'll need to donate something.
Okay. How do we determine what we're going to donate?
We discuss it in the past. We've used a 20 amp hour lithium ion phosphate battery.
Okay. That's gone over well too, right? Using the battery.
I believe so.
Do we need to still go on and vote for that today and be done with it, or do we want to think on it? Like, are they going to print those on tickets? Do you know? Have you got to talk to them?
I don't know if they're going to print all of it on the tickets or not.
Okay.
Yeah, and then Ty, just so you know, I mean it's been like, every year for at least since I've been a member that we've done the battery, and we've always had to pay for it, except for last year where the vendor was kind enough to just provide it free of charge to us for a donation. So.
And he gave something else also.
Right. And so it's no guarantee that they're going to do it again.
Okay.
I doubt if he'll do it again, but it was
okay.
And it's
extra generous.
lithium iron phosphate.
Yeah.
So
LiPo.
LiPo 4.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, if there's no opposition to that and you don't feel like it's impacting the budget negatively, that you've already, kind of budgeted for that, then we can go ahead and vote on that. Question is, do we still I needed to ask this earlier. Do we still have quorum?
Well,
we had 9 people.
I won't count, and then
we got Joe.
Barry and Lynn wouldn't count. So really, you've only lost 1 voting. So
okay.
you should have, you've got quorum.
Gotcha. Just making sure. Okay. Thank you. Sanity check.
I would move that. I would move that we supply for donation to Free Fest 20 amp hour lithium phosphate iron phosphate battery with a budget not to exceed $200.
I think it'll be a little bit more than that this year, but
okay, 250.
Yeah, that's actually what we had approved last year.
Excellent.
Second.
Okay, we heard a second. All right, so all of the yays.
Second.
Okay, all of the yays say yay, please.
Yay.
All right.
Yes.
Any opposed? Nay. I heard no yays. The nays, the yays have it. So passed. Okay, that was the last order of business. Anybody else have any orders of business that we need to take care of before we wrap it up? Okay, hearing none, I will adjourn the meeting at 21:10.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, everybody.
See y'all next week.
See you at the meeting. For anybody that wants to stay, I'll be glad to discuss anything or not. You gotta stop.
Sure. It is.
Hang on.
Stop the recording.
Hang on.